Hey guys, Rich from Rich Mid Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Welcome to another episode of the Weekly Bugle. I'm joined once again by the only MCP influencer in the world, Quinn Duggan. Quinn, how the hell are you doing? Quinn, so a strange one this week. There may have been the Gambit card release by the time this video goes out, as we record it a bit earlier in the week, but we got the Colossus panel to play. Now, nothing unusual about that. You know, we were expecting it anyway because the card had already been released, but on a Monday, which was very strange. Like, they don't usually do things on a Monday.
Completely redone his card in the panel play and made him not hot done.
Yeah, they've not given him fastball special just as a superpower, have they?
They're not giving him a medium move, which is the least he deserves.
It really is. It really is. So, MCP news this week, guys, is a little bit light on the ground, but it's to be expected. Run up to Christmas and the New Year, we don't tend to hear too much. But Quinn, there are some rumours and rumblings that we're going to get something this week or this month even.
First time I heard about it, it was from Aaron. So, completely ignored it because that's what you do when Aaron speaks to you. Apparently, it might actually be a thing.
Yeah, could be a thing. Could be a thing that they're giving us a big Christmas announcement. So we'll keep his ears to the ground. We'll see. And obviously, if as and when they do, we'll cover that in the Weekly Bugle or maybe as a one-off special, depending on what it is. So, guys, the rundown for the show, as usual, is MCP news followed by speculation and rumours. And we've kind of just covered off all of the MCP news and speculation and rumours in that 130-second segment.
Cool. That's the episode for today, guys.
Next
week.
Roll credits. So I said this to you guys last week that we were going to open it up to have a section of the show which covered questions that you can fire over to Quinn and myself. Now, whether that's questions in terms of, what is your favourite X-Force player and why is it not Cable? We had quite a few viewer questions that were sent in, but the one that me and Quinn, or the one that I picked out, sorry for me and Quinn to go over, was a roster submission from Darlomage. Now, he submitted this on the Discord, and we had a chat about it there, but Darlomage has been playing Brotherhood for quite some time, Quinn, but with Mystique as the leader and not including Magneto in his roster. So he's put together...
Not playing Brotherhood then.
So he's put together he's put together a roster, which I'll run through now really quickly. And I thought it'd be a good one for us to go through, give our feedback. And as always, guys, it's just mine and Quinn's feedback. However, number one and number two Brotherhood players in the world, according to Longshanks.
You left it at number one. We didn't really need to mention, the dregs of society.
To be fair, I handed the baton over to you.
Oh yeah, you made that sound real willing there, Rich. I pulled it from your cold dead hand.
You did. But again, I want to point out, guys, this is just mine and Quinn's take on it. Me and Quinn probably won't even agree entirely how the roster should be built.
You know which one of us is correct, everyone.
Well, yeah, it's not him. Let's start with the characters. And I want to just pull out the affiliated characters first, because he's got Magneto, Juggernaut, Mystique, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and Toad. So 6 of the 7 currently affiliated characters, because Rogue is in there as well. And there is I'm going to say 60% chance that Rogue is affiliated in the Brotherhood.
Well, I'm going to Price is Right you and say there's a 61% chance.
Oh, God damn you. But I think that's the solid 6 that you want to take. Sabretooth is viable, but there are better options in my opinion, I think. So I think in terms of affiliated characters, he's hit the nail on the head there. Would you agree, Quinn?
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty much the affiliated makeup of Brotherhood. Almost all of the characters are good. Sabretooth's a bit sad. I could definitely see an argument for just getting rid of Mystique if, you really need that 4th unaffiliated slot, but if you don't, it's nice having an option for another leader, and Deception's good card.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think as we spoke about, I've actually put her back in to my list now. Thanos and all of his gems have gone, and she's gone back in alongside, I think, one other 3 threat and a 2 threat, with the idea being that on some of those spammier lists, those wider lists, she actually does hold her own a little bit better than Magneto when you make him very tall. So I'll put it in there. But let's go through the 4 unaffiliated characters. So we've got Domino, Hood, Rogue, and Omega Red as the 4 characters there. And we have to remember, guys, this is a Magneto focus list. So we're going to be talking about things that synergize well with and work well with Magneto. For me, Quinn, I like a 3 or 4 threat character in there that can throw things turn 1 and can give a bit of support, because you've got, I mean, in most lists that you run with Magneto, you're going to be running Scarlet Witch alongside him. There's an argument now to say that with Juggernaut, you could end up putting Juggernaut in instead of. But I think still in most lists, Scarlet Witch is going to bring something to there. So you've already got 2 murder balls in those guys. So you actually don't need to worry too much, do you, about bringing more murder to the table, because they do quite well. But for those that don't know, Magneto's leadership ability allows you to basically generate power equal to the size of terrain damaged. Now, the way in which it works, if you have a size 3 and a size 2 building, you throw the size 3 piece of terrain into the size 2, it destroys both of them. That then generates 5 power, and each character can have 1 power per turn. That's both on your turn and your opponent's turn as well. It's always one that's worth remembering. I always like to be able to open up, Quinn, with something that's generating some extra power for my entire team, because if you've got people like Quicksilver in there or people like Toad, it just gives you the ability to do more turn 1, or even like an Asteroid M or something like that. And whilst turn 1 plays are not really a thing anymore in the old style, there are still some players out there, aren't there? And I think a character that can pick up a size 3 building or a size 3 piece of terrain and chuck it into a size 2 turn 1 is quite a nice way of getting some power generated, isn't it?
Yep. Those characters' names happen to be Vision and Lockjaw, for those wondering.
Vision and well, they're the 2 that I go with and have always gone with over, because Valkyrie was viable before, wasn't she? But Valkyrie now has lost the ability to do that, because even though she gets the 1 extra power from being an Asgardian, it's now gone up to 3 power, I believe, the cost of her throw. So I think they're the only 2 characters on the table now that have got that capability turn 1, at least to throw a size 3. I'm sure there are others out there that can throw a size 2. But the reason, for me, the important thing about it being a size 3 is that you can then throw that into a size 2 because of the new rule restrictions, in that it's got to be bigger than, not the same size of. So Lockjaw for me fits in there really nicely as one of the 4. I think you include him in your list as well, Quinn.
Yeah, I take both Lockjaw and Vision. I also took Valkyrie back in the past, the days of future past, perhaps. But yeah, Lockjaw's just a really good boy. The turn 1 throw is really nice. The biggest thing about it, I find, is that you can then give him back a power, which then gives him the perfect amount to be able to teleport a character forward range 3.
Magneto, who only has a short move.
Surely you teleport Toad forward.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Is that you open with Lockjaw and he's got enough power because he generates 3 extra power if he's within range 2, I want to say, of somebody, Quinn.
Yep. He's a very good boy and he deserves head
because he's a very good boy. That then gives him enough power to throw something, which I think puts him from 1 power back down to up to 2, and then you generate the extra power then, don't you, from the throw, which again, you give him 1 back, and he's got enough to then do his teleport. And then usually enough, and then he's got obviously enough movement then to typically get to a point, stand on a back point, basically. Yeah. And
the thing with Lockjaw as well is, like, he isn't just there for that turn one play. He's also there for the rest of the game to effectively undo any sort of control your opponent performs on mags.
Yeah.
Like, someone pushes, like, mags short twice or throws a medium or whatever. Like, Lockjaw just activates and goes, get back on the point, boss. Now kill them.
Yeah. Well, and so there's that part of it, which I really like. And quite often, you know, he's getting him further up the board than what is being pushed. I also like is it interdimensional bloodhound? Is that the one that's the one extra attack dice? I think it is.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he's a mini advanced R&D every turn, where he just, as long as he's got the terrain to do it, if you've got nothing else to do, he can just do the terrain throw again and just generate another power for everyone. And there are plenty of characters in this list. There are plenty of tactics cards in the roster to spend power on. And, one of the things that you're not going to do with Brotherhood is struggle to power dump the spenders on most of the characters, not all of them. Magneto's probably one of those characters where I would argue for the most part, his builder is better than his spender. There are better things he can spend power on, i.e. throwing everything on the board.
Throwing the world, yes.
But yeah, Lockjaw is a great addition. And for me, my go-to sort of 17 threat on most scenarios has been Magneto himself, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and then Lockjaw making up that last slot. I don't take his tactics card, even with 10. I don't think there's much of a need for it in the affiliation. I think for me, he takes up one of those slots, Quinn. So we've got in there Domino, Hood, Omega Red, and Rogue. Who would you drop from that to fit Lockjaw in?
I'd probably drop Hood just because it's another 3 threat slot. Like Hood does weird things. I'm not particularly experienced with Hood.
I think it brings some nice, rapid fire mystic attack is nice, but I think whilst Brotherhood are very physical attack sort of centric, Scarlet Witch is the best, in my opinion, the best mystic attacker in the game. Her build is really good. Her spender is amazing, and the fact she counts failures, and actually not only counts failures, but either gives you a condition token for rolling one, or I think on her spender actually pierces you as well. So not only does she get to include failures, they actually give her something extra. So I think she's got that mystic side covered. So there's not really a need for it. So yeah, Hood for me is one that could go. Vision we spoke about, Quinn, obviously is one threat more. He brings some nice beam attacks, doesn't he? First of all, he is part of the family, right? He is husband of Wanda.
So is the dog. The dog is just on loan from Crystal.
The dog's on loan from Crystal. Yeah. So part of the family. So thematically, if you like your thematic list, Vision fits really well. But actually, he just fits really well in the Brotherhood, doesn't he? He synergizes so well with what they do. Again, he's got that turn one play. You do need to use an action for it, so he actually does take up an action. But again, because he's got that medium move, more often than not, you can do the action, throw what you need to throw, and still get to a point to be able to contest it. And he will have power left over, won't he, for to be able to flip a point or pick something up or whatever it may be. He also brings a beam for energy attack, which is not to be underestimated. It's very, very strong. And again, he's going to be generating lots of power. He's strong as it is by himself. He's definitely another target for your opponent to be going after. So yeah, I think he's a solid choice. Who would you drop, Quinn? So we've got left Domino, Omega Red and Rogue, who would you sort of swap out then for
I feel like
Vision?
you know who I'm gonna say. It's the Russian boy, just because. Yeah, like Omega Red's really cool. Like I actually just got Omega Red to finish off my ownership of MCP models this weekend. I've been needing to get him for a while. But Omega Red fits into places I think like Criminal Syndicate, Spider Foes. Like Syndicate, he's affiliated in. He's a very tanky boy. Spider Foes, he sort of does automatic damage, that kind of thing. Brotherhood don't really need the kit he brings. Like, probably the best thing in Omega Red for Brotherhood is Ensnare, so he can pull
Yeah.
someone in.
And then Magneto or Scarlet Witch can just murder them.
Yeah, which is admittedly really cool, but you can sort of do the same thing for a threat less tactics cards with Deception.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are more stipulations on it, and it's a bit hard to do. But if you get a long mover with that they come into play, and they're not going to have a good time at all.
Yeah, I'm okay with swapping out Omega Red. So that leaves us then with Rogue and Domino, and I think these last two slots are definitely open in a Brotherhood list. I think that core 8 characters, but I think those 8 characters are what Brotherhood players should now be looking at, and really those last 2 slots are, I'm going to say, a little bit more interchangeable, Quinn, aren't they? You could, if you wanted, for example, there's nothing stopping you putting in an 8th threat Thanos, right? If you wanted to go back to the good old Thanos days in Brotherhood, which does work remarkably well. I think Rogue is a really good shout, especially if she's affiliated. If she's affiliated, I think she takes that 9th spot, doesn't she? Most definitely.
Probably, yeah.
But for that last slot, then, what do you think of Domino? I mean, she's good. She's a good all-rounder in terms of damage output. Dishing out incinerates, ignoring cover, which is always really nice. Do you think there are better suited 3 threats, or even, dare I say it, an additional 2 threat that you would look to include in there?
So, obviously, I used to play Valkyrie. That's now no longer a thing because Valkyrie just doesn't do what I needed to do. I actually really like Domino as a choice in Brotherhood simply because she benefits a great deal from Magneto's leadership.
Yep.
Obviously, she doesn't contribute to it, but getting more power on Domino means you're getting more failures that are crits. Because obviously, Domino, she has a one power builder flat, right, with rapid fire. She's typically spending between 0 and 1 power per shot to do the crit thing, which means she's typically power neutral.
Yeah.
Whereas in Brotherhood, you're building more power on it as the turns go on and on. So at some point during a Domino attack, you're going to roll 4 skulls and just be like, okay, 4 power, bam, and just murder someone's face off. Which I really do quite like. It gives you more chances of doing the grenade bounce. Obviously, she can always do it every turn anyway, but it lets you do grenade bounce whilst getting the crits in, which I think is really nice as well. I quite like Domino in that slot actually.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Like I say, I think it's very interchangeable. I think there are a number of 3 threats and potentially 2 threats in there that you could put. I've been experimenting with magic for a little while. Gambit has gone in there for me as well because I think he brings some nice attacks, but he also brings that really nice tactics cards, Dark Past, which I think can be really, really effective for Brotherhood. Rocket's not a bad choice for a back point, being able to to dish out the damage. So I think very interchangeable, isn't it? But Domino is most definitely a good choice in there, I'd say. Let's then take a look at the tactics cards. And I spoke about this before, Quinn, but I genuinely believe that Brotherhood have the best tactics cards in the game overall when you look at affiliated and then affiliated characters, to the point where I'm struggling at the moment justifying putting in two restricted cards because the other cards they've got are just so good. So let's go through them and look at what Dial-A-Mi just put in. So he's got Asteroid M, Bitter Rivals, Blind Obsession, Can I Borrow That, Deception, Disarm, Magnetic Refraction, Making a Ruskus, Medpack, and No More Mutant. So again, let's take out the affiliated cards first. So Asteroid M, and that's it that he's got in there, I believe. So that's the only card that he's got in there that is affiliated.
Well, I mean, the only other affiliated Brotherhood card is Books of Truth, as far as I know, which is a bit wank.
And Difficult to Please.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that card is awful.
Oh, it's awesome card. Awesome
card. Well, yeah, you're the number 2 Brotherhood player, so be quiet.
So Asteroid M, solid choice, Quinn. It needs to be going in your 10 every single time, doesn't it?
It usually needs to be going in your 5 every single time.
It's unusual for it to not be in your 5. There are some sort of setups and scenarios where it's not quite needed, but yeah, more often than not, you want that in your list. Let's then look at the character cards. So we've got Can I Borrow That attached to Quicksilver. We've got Deception attached to Mystique. We've got Magnetic Refraction attached to Magneto. Making a Ruckus attached to Juggernaut.
Whoa. Making a what?
Making a Ruskus, sorry.
There we go.
I do apologise. And then No More Mutants, Quicksilver. No More Mutants, Scarlet Witch. Let's do Magneto first. 100% Magnetic Refraction. Cover for everyone, right?
You play that card every single turn.
Yeah, it's that and Asteroid M are my first go-to cards for almost every list or every squad that I'm building. So absolutely love those ones. When I would highly recommend taking alongside Making a Ruskus, Do You Know Who I Am? A size 4 out of activation throw is not to be sniffed at, is it? Long as well, yeah, is not to be sniffed at. And I think it costs 3 power to do. So you can yeet, a Hulk anywhere on the board, right? That you want pretty much. And the thing I like about this is it will catch your opponent off guard. They will move up to, Juggernaut if he's already activated, thinking, oh, that's fine, Juggernaut, and on my way to go and try and murder Magneto or Scarlet Witch or whoever it may be. And Juggernaut can be like, and you can generate power for Juggernaut using other characters, then give Juggernaut enough power to be able to use this to then throw him towards a Magneto or a Scarlet Witch, or again, whoever it's going to be. So I really like that card. I know that's putting 2 cards into Juggernaut, but I think he's worth it, and I think those cards are worth it, Quinn. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm less sold on Making a Ruskus. Obviously, in the test games we've had, that card has had a big impact. I don't know whether it has that same impact every time you play it. I definitely think that, Do You Know Who I Am is the better of the 2 cards. I think it's the far more generally applicable.
You're going to be able to use that every game, aren't you, pretty much?
Yeah. Whereas Making a Ruskus is it's cool, if you really need a reposition and, someone's on low health, and they don't have, the best defensive tech in the world, that could be really good. It's just that, if you find yourself tight on card slots, which admittedly in a mono affiliation in a world with 10 tactics cards is unlikely, that would probably be one of the first ones I cut.
Yeah. Scarlet Witch then, No More Mutants is in there, which is not a bad tactics card. But the value in the Whims of Chaos, for me, far outweighs the value of No More Mutants. No More Mutants can be devastating for your opponent, but it's very situational. As a power dump, just on Whims of Chaos can be great, right? To just put out tokens on everyone, heal people. You've got a stagger on a Magneto, for example. What a great way of just giving him both of his actions back. So for me, Whims of Chaos is always in my list, always in my 10. No More Mutants sometimes makes it in if I know the matchup I'm going into, particularly if I'm coming up against a Black Order. I quite like that, especially now because it can really ruin husband and wife's day when they try to make the back-to-back activations and you just go, I don't care if you're not a mutant, but no more of them. But I think the Whims of Chaos, there's a lot more value, isn't there, than no more mutants.
Yeah, I've always been a firm believer in whims over no more mutants.
You converted me, Quinn.
I mean, it's not difficult. You're very easily led. The main thing for me is that I, as a player, am very proactive. I don't really do reactive plays. That's not my style. I also have a tendency to forget reactive cards, like No More Mutants, which is one of the main reasons why I don't play it, just because I know I'm not going to get the full use out of it that someone else might.
I like it, Quinn. I get that you sometimes don't. You forget to use it, but I would say that's more of a Quinn problem than the card
I was going to say, I don't advocate for including No More Mutants because of how I play. If you feel like you, as a player, will be able to make the most out of No More Mutants, by all means use it.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
If you're a pleb like me and you're just punching things in the face on your go and don't really care what your opponent's doing, maybe don't.
So, are there any other cards, Quinn, that you think are missing from this roster? I mentioned difficult to please. I know you're not a fan. Having that extra activation on a Magneto even can be devastating for your opponent. I play Magneto and the Twins at 14 threat quite a lot. Quite often you can be coming up against a 5-wide Sam Spam, and having that extra activation without losing priority can be really nice. Let's have a look at his 2 restricted cards. So Bitter Rivals and Medpack. Nothing wrong with them at all. Good, solid cards. Are there any of the other ones that you think would fit better?
I do really like field dressing, specifically in lists where you have a big bad that just sort of does its own thing and murders the world. Field dressing can just be so good for getting that activation when you need it. If there's a critical turn where your Magneto's been dazed, or your Scarlet Witch has been dazed, or your Juggernaut's been dazed, and you really need that character to go and do a thing.
Murder everyone usually.
Typically. Field dressing is just such a good pick for that, and in Magneto's Brotherhood specifically, you're going to have the power to use it most of the time on most of your characters, just because you generate power out the wazoo.
Yep, I agree. Field dressing for me, I would probably put in over Medpack.
I would have gone with it over Bitter Rivals simply because Brotherhood are already exceptionally good at killing things.
They are that.
The recommended change of Whims of Chaos is being taken on board. You already have a way to get your entire enemy team to -1 defense for a round by just giving them all Incinerate.
Well, it's not for a round, remember. It lasts.
It lasts until they're gone, but they're usually gone in a round.
Usually a round, if Scarlet Witch has anything to do with it.
Yeah. Rivals, yes, good card, but on certain missions like a D or even a B potentially, you're not going to have that same level of clumping that you would on a Gamma or a Demons or one of the C's like Deadly Meteors.
I do like as well, like you say, Magneto being dazed, Scarlet Witch, or even a Toad, right? Because Toad's going to have power. Toad field dressings in. You take your turn with Magneto, you destroy everything in sight, you generate loads of power, you play Medpack, you heal yourself. Happy days.
So suddenly your Magneto is back on 4 health. If you play Whims of Chaos as well and use the healing factor of that, then you're taking 1 damage on your Magneto.
Yeah.
You just sat there with power, and he's like, right, well,
you've probably got magnetic refraction up as well, because it's something you want to keep up for the majority as well. So, cover. Yes, you're only getting 3 dice unless you pay your 2 power for 6, and then you're getting 6 with cover. is quite a nice position to be in, isn't it? So
yeah.
And then we've got Disarm as the last card in there, which
Blind Obsession.
And Blind Obsession as well, yeah. Which I'm okay with, but I think we've just named quite a few cards there, Quinn, haven't we? That probably work better in those situations. But again, I think those last couple of slots are probably a little bit more interchangeable.
Yeah. I have become a very big fan of Face Me as a tactics card in the New World, just because I hate Black Cat. She runs away from me with extracts and can't get her. So long move back over here and die quietly.
Yeah, that's quite nice. Yeah, for somebody
It's really
holding
good.
that.
I've been taking it in foes to get repositions on enemy models that then trigger a bunch of reactive powers to damage. I really like Face Me as a card. Really, really do.
So there is the element of that. The character then gets to make an attack, isn't there?
Yes.
And I gather a way around that is you, because do they have to move their full movement on Face Me, Quinn, or can you
just advance them? It's
okay?
normal.
So it's like taking a move action, so you get to choose the amount. So I gather there with like a Black Cat who's range 2 on all of her
with her spender, but if she doesn't have power for it, she can't do it. There are a great many characters that are range 2 on all of their attack. So you just sort of drag them in, put them in that little sweet spot between all your dudes that isn't range 2, and then in a thing like Foes or indeed Brotherhood, where you have a lot of range 3 plus attack as your builders, they get to do nothing, and then you get to murder them.
Or do you know what? You use a Juggernaut and pull in a Black Cat who stood next to Magneto with magnetic refraction up, and you go, yeah, you can make an attack against me.
I really
don't care. So yeah. Let's have a look then, Quinn, at the crisis cards. Let's start with the extracts because they come first on the list. So we've got Fear Grips, Research, and Struggle. First of all, I'm going to put a big tick box next to Fear Grips. D-maps.
Everyone likes a hammer.
Everyone likes a hammer. You've now got Juggernaut in affiliation who can pick it up. That can pick that hammer up without using an action first to get there, which is always really nice. You've got so many characters that can make use of them. Even characters like Quicksilver. You get a hammer onto Quicksilver, and all of a sudden, the number of triggers you get from his builder just start going up exponentially as well. Or you've got characters like Toad that can take them and run into the corner. You've got Quicksilver can go into the corner, or then you've got Jugs, Mags, and Scarlet Witch who like murdering them. You've got Vision in there if you take our advice. So all of a sudden, extra dice per attack on his beam. So lots and lots of value from hammers. So I'm okay with that. I want to go to Struggle for the Cube first, Quinn, because 5 victory points up for grab with this per turn. It generates power. We already generate power. More power is usually good, but more power at the cost of damage, which it's very hard to get damage onto Brotherhood characters if you set up right. So giving that free damage, I'm not a fan of. But more importantly, is that's a lot of objectives or objectives tokens, asset tokens, and Brotherhood are not the best at getting around the board very well. We've got Asteroid M for one big move, and we've got Juggernaut who can move around. But outside of that, I just don't like having those 5 points there and having that many options for victory points available for people. I don't know if you think it works for them or not.
No, I'm not really a fan of cubes. I like cubes and foes, just because.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And foes, with tall affiliations, you typically want slower scoring scenarios because you want to win the game via attrition.
Yes.
This is not an attrition card, despite the fact it does damage. There are far too many VPs on the board that way that your opponent can run away with, and you just sort of get left behind in the dust.
And And you can also carry multiple cubes as well, Quinn, can't you? And that's the other thing, is that one character can have more than one cube. And then, as you say, run to the corner of the board. And even if they daze, you're probably not going to be able to get there with your Brotherhood to even go and pick them up.
And then scoop them all up. And
yeah.
So, like, I'd probably recommend instead of cubes something like Alien Ship.
Yep.
Nice high threat. Really slow scoring, potentially no scoring if you don't roll those crits.
Single extract, which is really important as well, because we've got a single extract player in terms of Quicksilver. Quicksilver can run up and can take that extract. Yes, he needs to eke out a point of damage, but he's probably got enough in him to be able to do that. In a similar vein, Quinn, I also like Senator. In that,
Senator, not mutant.
Not mutant. I get told off for calling it mutant, don't I?
Yeah, you do, because it's wrong.
But again, I like that. I really do like that. And I like the fact that you've got Asteroid M to get Magneto from one side of the board to the other. So typically I'm playing, Magneto down the middle, and then usually Scarlet Witch on one flank, Quicksilver on the other. We go and look at things, and then wherever it ends up, Magneto then just zips over to the other side and usually murders whoever on the opposing team ends up picking it up.
That's usually what he do.
It's usually what he does. So then I would swap both Research Station and Cube out, Quinn, for Senator and for Alien Core as well.
Yeah, I personally would take Scrolls of Senator just because I'm not a big fan of 14 threat with Brotherhood. I know you like it because you like doing your terrible plays with your difficult. Please, Dad, why won't you love me? But I definitely prefer the 17. I feel like the 17 is a really good spot for Brotherhood because you get you get the little family unit plus the dog.
You do get the dog, yes. You do get the dog.
Really good.
So we've then got for the secures, we've got Demons, Gamma, Terrigen. Demons I'm okay with. Incinerate's nice. Gamma and Terrigen. Gamma is okay.
It's precisely that. It's okay.
It's okay. But I'm going to say that I don't like the threat value of Gamma for Brotherhood. It's an awkward number. You can do it, very easily because you would go Magneto, Scarlet Witch, and then Vision, or even a Toad and another 2 threat if you put another 2 threat in there. But flip objectives are your friend. And that's what I would be looking to include here, Quinn.
I can definitely see an argument for flip objectives, specifically Madman, because physical defense is relatively high in Brotherhood. Well, actually, it's relatively average in Brotherhood. It's just that it does a bit of damage if you get the flip on one that your opponent's got. There are also teams out there and specific characters out there that struggle on it, say like Voodoo or Clea. She's a thing in this game.
She is a thing in this game.
Apparently, I've not seen her.
What's the one with the? And I can never remember the name of it. But it's the C map with the three across the middle, and you need 2 of the 3, or whoever's got the most gets 3 victory points.
That's either Sword or Deadly Meteors. They both.
Deadly Meteors, yes. Deadly Meteors is one, and
I also don't mind intrusions because.
I do not mind intrusions because
Mags other side of the board now. Bam.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. Or getting other people 2 mags for some, additional protection and turtling up and that sort of thing is nice. I think you've got a few to choose from. I think, Demons is good. I'd look at swapping out Gamma Wave and Terrigen for, a flip. And as Quinn says, maybe a mutant, maybe an intrusion, something like that. But 15 is an awkward number. If you come up against it, you can have a plan for it, no doubt. But it's probably not one that you're going to be wanting to choose. And in this new world now of, everything is just random, we need to be a little bit more careful about the ones that we're picking. Quinn, before we move on to the next section, I want to just cover off something. It's not really a rumor or a speculation. It could fall under the speculation category, but it sort of raised its head above the parapet again this last week with a video that one of our good friends Luke put out there, and he was talking about the possibility of minions in the game. Now, before we start talking about this, I want to just say that me and Quinn are both fully aware that 12, 18 months ago, AMG said on a stream they would never do minions, okay? We are aware of that. Everybody else who is screaming that at us needs to be aware there are lots of things that AMG have said they will never do and have done. Okay?
Almost like the entire errata of characters.
So let's just put that one out there, okay? We know, we heard it, we understand, but things they've done in the past have gone against things they've also said. So, and the question arose, Quinn, of, I suppose it's twofold. Do we think they should be in the game? Is there a place for them? And then equally, do we think Atomic Mass Games will put them in the game? But I throw it to you first, Quinn, is first of all, do you think they should be in the game? Do you think there's a place for them?
I think that would be a terrible idea, just because this is a game of superheroes and supervillains punching the shit out of each other. Having some goons run around in the middle of it, I just find it boring. Like, oh, there's some AIM agent setting up a gun. I don't care. Fuck off and die.
and would you say that across the board for all of the different game modes, or could you see it being something that, let's say they release a leader of AIM MODOK, right, as the big bad next year, and he comes with AIM bots or AIM lackeys as part of the ultimate encounter? Would you see that as being okay?
I would be fine with that. When I speak about the game, I mean the standard version. The game that I play. I've never actually been able to play any of the ultimate encounters. I would like to at some point because they do seem cool, but
they're really good. They are really good.
Just for the standard version of the game where you build rosters and you have squads that you make, having minions just doesn't work. Minions assumedly would be incredibly cheap because they've not got superpowers, they're just grunts, right?
And I gather the assumption is one threat, isn't it? For at least one threat for one, maybe one threat for more.
A one threat activation in this game would fundamentally break how it works.
Yeah,
it's as easy as that, because suddenly every list that is super tall, a Brotherhood that's 4 wide at whatever threat value, suddenly they make a slight adjustment. They're now 5 wide and they're getting a waste activation every round. And this is actually, I used to play Guild Ball. This was a thing that happened during, I think, season 1 or 2 of Guild Ball. There was a character. Well, there was a set of characters called Avarice and Greed, who were a really big dude and then a little dude in a baby carrier. And you could let the little dude off the baby carrier and he would be his own activation. And Guild Ball was a thing that was limited to 6 activations. Both teams had 6 activations, that's it. Avarice and Greed, who were part of the mercenary faction, could go in every team, then made that 7.
Right.
Which then meant you had a waste activation every round, which meant you could always force your opponent's hand into doing something.
Yeah.
So that's not something I want in this game, because suddenly you're playing a really tall list. One of the advantages of the tall list is you get prio. One of the detriments is you have to do something early. You have passes and stuff like that, but if you're playing a really wide list and your opponent passes, you just activate your minion and dirtle them around.
Yeah.
And then you've lost nothing, and your opponent is then having to activate in a place that is potentially suboptimal.
So let me throw this out to you a different way then. Would you be against, and I've got a particular affiliation in mind here, that I think we're going to see in the next 12 months. It is Shield. Yeah. So you've said no to minions that can be splashed, right? Would you be against having one threat named characters that could only be part of certain affiliations? So maybe Shields, because Shield are coming to the game, right?
They have to be.
The thing about Shield is they're made up of Hawkeyes and Black Widows, and Hawkeye and Black Widow are two of the best. So their characters are going to be lower threat characters, because you can't just start throwing in Captain America and people like that. Yes, they've, yes, at some part they've been heads of Shield.
Shield at some point. That doesn't mean they're a member of Shield.
No, exactly that, and that's the differentiator, isn't it? So, and there are a couple, right? You've got Quake, obviously one of the Inhumans.
Like Quake, you've got
Spider-Woman, Fury,
Maria Hill.
So Maria, I'm thinking more along the lines of the sort of Maria Hill type characters. Would you be against them having one or two named one threat characters who, were sort of minion-esque, but maybe could only be part of the Shield affiliation, and maybe that's sort of their unique thing, is that they have these one threats, because they're going to need something. Or do you just think it's bad for the game entirely?
I think I'm fundamentally against the idea of one threat characters. Like, just full stop. I don't think they should exist.
Even Aunt May?
Fucking zero threat character that stands on the side of the board. But I don't see a reason why you would have a one threat character and not be able to just make them a two threat. Like one threats don't exist as is. Two threats are the lowest of the low, right? They've typically got 4 health on both sides. Like, to me, a two threat is like a typical human, right? You've got, they're skilled humans, and that's where their superpowers and attacks come in. But the baseline stats of a two threat are a normal human. Your bullseyes, your Okoyes, right? Maria Hill's normal human. She might come with a rocket launcher. I don't know. But, Maria Hill is a normal human. She's got, shield training and stuff like that, which would probably give her, martial artist, whatever else. Stealth, maybe. I don't know. But, there is no reason why that character should be a one threat, where, Okoye is a two threat.
No, I get that.
I just don't think one threat should be a thing for the game.
And actually, thinking about it, we already have an example of a minion in the game in Agent of Hydra. So there is actually already precedent set, isn't there, for an agent of sorts to be in the game? And
a grunt tier character, and yet Bob is still a two threat. Bob is a two threat because he's got his big fuck off gun.
Yes,
but and Bob is understated because of that for a two threat. There's no reason why you can't have just a slightly beefier dude that's I don't know, Hydra agent number 487.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
They're not cool. It's oh great, Captain America just punched a Hydra bloke. Who gives a shit? Whereas if he's just decked Red Skull, that's cool, because punching a Nazi is cool, kids.
Well, they are the comic. Punching a Nazi is cool. It is never not cool to punch a Nazi.
Germans will think twice about trying to get the drop on us.
No, I'm kind of torn. I think for the main game, I don't think there is a place for them. I think we could definitely see them in some Ultimate Encounters and some different game modes. And I think we could see some different game modes over the next 12 months coming. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. But I just thought we would have a quick conversation about Quinn and see what your thoughts were on whether or not we should be having it.
Overwhelmingly positive, as you just saw.
Quinn, on to the next section of the show. our weekly painting competition, Do You Even Paint Though? I set the challenge last week because it was my turn. It's my prerogative. And because we'd talked about Honey Badger in X23, I thought, why not take a look at one of the hardest colours to paint, yellow, for Wolverine. And we had some really nice paint jobs sent over. Honourable mention that I want to pick out this week is from Ravensguard. I think he did a really nice job of that sort of black and grey X-Force one. Did you have an honourable mention to pick out, Quinn?
Yeah, I think I've got a couple. So I really like the X-Force scheme by Oberham. I really like sort of the grey on that. I feel like it's just the right, like, sort of tint of grey, as it were. Like, that and the black, I think, work really well together. Obviously, you've got, like, sort of classic red eyes with X-Force that I do think is quite cool. And other than that, I did want to mention Kaylee's paint job as well, because I think that one is actually really cool as well. Like, the yellow is quite striking.
Yeah, it does. It does really pop, doesn't it? It's yeah, the one that Kaylee sent in is straight out of the 90s cartoon, isn't it?
Yep.
It looks like it's straight off there. But as always, guys, there can only be one winner each week, and we both kind of agreed, didn't we, on this one, Quinn, which is unusual. But it was the submission by Joe Manji. Really striking yellow. Really like the claws. I think you mentioned the sort of base as well, didn't you?
I like the blue tint to it. It's got sort of like a, nighttime vibe to it.
Let's not also underestimate the fact that he went with the head. And I don't know about you, Quinn, but whenever there is an opportunity to put a helmet on people, which means I don't have to paint eyes, I generally go for, because it's easier. But I think he's done a really good job of the eyes there as well.
Yeah.
So cool. Joe Manji, you are this week's winner. You don't win anything, but you get your name put up there. We'll put you on our Hall of Fame, and everyone who submitted an entry will also get entered into the prize draw at the end of this season, where somebody will win one of the Rivals packs, not the Bitter Rivals packs, as I said last week. Quinn, no submissions for Roll Better this week. So guys, make sure you get those submissions in for us so we can take a look at your worst rolls. So anything else from yourself, Quinn?
Well, I mean, I suppose I should set, like, the target for the next painting competition.
You probably should. You should probably set next week's painting competition, yes.
So I think in honour of the fact that I've been double hulking it at the weekend, which is fucking terrifying list, by the way. I'm just gonna pick Hulks. So anything with Hulk in the name, will that be Hulk, She-Hulk, or...
Wow. I mean, you've picked like two big categories there, like your Hulk paint job and your Hulkbuster paint job. But that's it across the board. So it can be She-Hulk, Hulk, or Hulkbuster.
Yep.
Wow. Just chaos.
Like chaos reign.
Chaos ensues. Okay, cool. So this week's theme is Hulks. So send us in your best Hulk submissions, whether it is the big green monster himself, whether it's his little cousin. I say little cousin. I still won't want to fight her. Whether it's Hulkbuster. I know there's lots of alternative sculpts out there as well, in terms of whether it's the 3D printed stuff, whether you've converted your Hulkbuster into a Red Hulk or a World War Hulk, whatever it is. Send us in your submissions. Me and Quinn will take a look and we will pick our winner. Guys, as always, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
See ya.